Good day, Methodist Dave here, professional theologian and Bible teacher with our daily devotional for Friday, February 20th. We come to chapter 20 in the book of Proverbs, and I'm going to read you verse 2. A quick warning, trigger warning, this will deal with some serious and consequential issues. The king's terrifying anger is like the roar of a lion. Whoever provokes him sins against himself. We don't have kings. But in the day of this, the king was a person with absolute authority and would establish agents who would speak with the authority and power of the king. You might not deal with the king, but you might deal with the king's soldiers or the king's ministers. And what they said carried the same weight as whatever the king says. In our life today, we have police, sheriffs, federal agents, social workers, government employees, government officials, people who speak and act with the authority of our local and federal governments. And they are tasked with the job of enforcing laws. Now, we have the right to protest laws that we believe are unjust, policies that we don't like. We can protest them. We can stand up, and I've never denied that is something that we can and should do. Wherever we see something injustice, we need to speak out against it. But I have seen in the last few years a lack of respect for authority, a lack of respect for law enforcement, in that people somehow have got it into their head that they can defy and retaliate against law enforcement and get away with it unscathed. They can resist, they can be combative, they can be aggressive, and that there's going to be no consequences for their actions because they think for some reason that the government officers are impotent and that they have all the rules. When I was a kid, I grew up watching TV shows like The Lone Ranger. And when the Lone Ranger ran into a bad guy and the bad guy would draw down on the Lone Ranger, he'd take his 6-shooter and he'd shoot the 6-shooter out of the hand of the bad guy and disarm him. Police don't do that. Federal agents don't do that. They don't wound, warn, or try to disarm. They're trained to neutralize a threat. And a woman in a vehicle was neutralized because she drove her vehicle at a police officer. I can't answer whether she was intending to harm him or not. Maybe she was trying to get around him. I have no idea what was going through her mind. But the officer felt threatened, responded with force. A young man protesting in the street got into an altercation with agents. He was armed. He was armed. And I don't know enough of the video and I can't comment on exactly what happened, but they neutralized him. The government agents, police, ICE, FBI, Homeland Security, sheriff's deputies, U.S. Marshals, Texas Rangers are all agents of the government. They are lions prowling around the streets. And if you poke them and try to hurt them, they will bite. You can protest. You can resist. But peaceful protest, nonviolent protesting, that's what ended Jim Crow laws. That's what ended segregation. Peaceful, nonviolent, noncompliance. that works. Trying to strike an officer, it will not end well. As I said, this was a serious video. If you've got a question about this subject, anything else, something you'd like to know a little more in depth about it, or what the scripture says about this, drop me an email, methodistdave@gmail.com. I'll do my best to answer your question. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. And until tomorrow, please, let's be good to each other.